Ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, welcome to this episode of Critically Casual. I'm your host, Srekcuf, and joining me as always is Dev, who looks like he's kinda had a haircut recently.
No, not even.
It's just how it's styled.
Yeah, I've styled it like I normally would have, the correct way, and it's staying somewhat alright this time.
So it kind of looks like, at least from how I've been looking at you the last couple of weeks, it looks like you parted it the opposite direction than normal.
The normal way that I used to do it.
Okay.
Because I used to part it to the right. But because my hair has been a mess, I've been doing it to the left. So I did it the correct way today, and it actually stayed for some reason. So alright, I'm going to put in some foam stuff, and hopefully it stays. It's staying alright. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah,
this is normally how I would look. I cleaned up even, you know?
Yeah, it's not bad. It looks nice.
This is like how Dev is supposed to look.
What you need to do next is you need to get one of those like bump it things that women put in their hair to give them like the good beehives, but you put it in the front here so you can get like a good Johnny Bravo spiral. No?
Anyways.
Alright. So, one more thing before we hop into the show this week. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who showed up to our charity stream, because that was great. We raised a good amount of money for everybody.
And we raised $150, which is pretty damn nice.
Yep. And we decided that we were going to keep the link open for until the end of the week here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so...
through what's the end of the week? It either ends the 20th or it holds through the 20th. I'm not 100% sure how it works.
Alright, one of those two. But yeah, so if you still feel like donating to CDC Foundation to help, raise money to fight, the link is in the boxes below, and you can use ! Donation. So with that said and done,
Or we'll throw it in the description as well, I guess, if you watch it on YouTube.
I guess I could do that too.
I mean, I can link it there once you upload it. Let me know. Let me know when you upload it.
No worries. I'll be there. I'll stop being lazy. But for this week, since we're here now, let's start talking about it. I have called this week Inspired by Sportsball. Because we're talking about the greatest game ever played, and then we're talking about Borg versus McEnroe. McEnroe? Yes. Where, one's golf, one's tennis.
Tennis?
Both are movies with Shia Labeouf. So, without anything else...
Continuing the Shia Month!
Yeah! So, is there anything else we want to talk about before we start talking about the greatest game ever played?
Man, what an interesting month this has been for movies. Like, what a roller coaster we've already been on, and we haven't even hit the end of this month.
I know, there's still 2 more weeks of what could possibly be either great or weird movies. Oh, we got like, hopefully, from what I've heard, good movies. And then we've got what this month was created for, my torture for Steven. And I hope we have a friend.
It's Transformers. I can't wait. I genuinely cannot wait for Transformers.
I'm sure it's gonna...
And don't worry, Steven had thrown on to me that I need to figure out what to do for next month. I've already pitched a couple ideas. One of them I even might expand upon after the show for him.
Oh, God. I think I know which one. All right. Oh, God. I'm just kidding. So, let's get in here and let's start talking about our first movie for today, which is the greatest game ever played, by Disney.
It feels like a Disney movie.
Yeah. You're not entirely wrong.
It came out on September 30th, 2005, with a budget of $26 million estimated. Opening weekend U.S., it made $3 million. U.S. and cumulative worldwide only made $15 million. Not great. Only made $100,000 outside of the U.S., it looks like. Not surprised. This movie is not a bad movie. For me, it's very middle of the road. Personal opinion. My problems with this movie.
Go for it.
The protagonists just kind of get past the issues that they are faced. And they don't really face a challenge in this movie, if that makes sense.
No, that's 100%. The only challenge in this movie comes maybe from one specific person towards one character. And otherwise, the challenge is like themselves almost.
Yeah, but not in a way that actually makes it like thought-provoking or like really feel like they overcame something. It's just like, oh, Shia's character occasionally has like a little bit of stage fright. Is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And Tom Rack's character, or no, not Tom Rack. Where is he? Harry Varden. There he is. Stephen Delane character.
Is it Delaney?
Delaney. Is it Delaney? Who plays Henry Varden. Kind of just like he's got like issues from his childhood that he just like. The best way to put it is the movie makes him visualize that they go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he conquers them. It doesn't really feel like they get past them. They just, better now.
In a way, I kind of agree with you, because this movie does something interesting where it uses its cinematography to tell interesting story moments. Where it's like if our main character, I think his name is Francis, played by Shia.
Yes.
If he's in the zone, we'll get this really interesting like dolly zoom montage where it goes from he's 300 feet away to the field collapsing to a singular point, and then suddenly the ball's in the hole, which is like, that's really interesting stuff for me. I thought that was kind of cool. But then they also do some of the silly stuff where it's just like, oh, using the same technique, I'm going to show you that he's stressed out, because instead of it going all the way to the hole, it's going to shake, and then we're going to go back to the distance, and then he's going to mess up because he has stage fright. And that's just with Francis. I don't want to discuss what happens with Harry because I feel like it's a little more spoilery for this movie, but he
just kind of gets past it.
Yeah, it's almost like his dilemma. He just gets over it because he's playing the game, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, ultimately I was going to say that. My biggest complaint with this movie is the fact that there is no real conflict. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any problem. And the two main characters, Harry Varden and Francis Ouimet. I like calling him We Met because it's like, yeah, we've met before. We met.
This guy.
Exactly. So, like, these two are supposed to be competitors in this game, but it doesn't feel that way until the last 30 minutes of this 2-hour-long movie.
Yeah. No, that's one of my problems, too. Like, the rivals don't actually, like, become, like, know that they're rivals until then.
Yeah.
Because one's an amateur. And the other's the professional.
The professional gentleman.
No, he's not a gentleman, remember?
No.
No, he's not part of the gentleman club. Makes me really dislike rich people again. But, like, I don't know, it's just, there's no, like, there's cool, like, again, I will say, there's some cool cinematography and stuff. There's some really cheesy CGI moments, like with the ladybug.
Yeah, there's
without going to spoilers, but there's a really cheesy ladybug moment.
Mm-hmm. There's a cheesy ladybug moment. They do this cheesy thing continuously where they make a golf ball fly in front of the camera lens. So for like 2 to 5 frames, it's just a golf ball, and it happens continuously. I was like, why does this keep happening? There's no point to you doing this, but they did it anyways.
Again and again and again.
Mm-hmm. When they go into those like dramatic environment moments, though, like for Harry's moments when he gets focused, that is so bad. Like, that is the worst environmental CG I think I've seen in a long time.
Oh, dude, I thought we were on Windows Vista.
Kinda, yeah. But then at the same time, I liked how they actually made me feel suspense and tension for a little white ball rolling on grass. Like, they have their takeaways where I was like, man, this is super cheesy. I don't feel any conflict. But at the same time, when I'm sitting there and I know that I'm supposed to be feeling tension and I'm watching this ball roll down a hill and then suddenly it starts to go the right way and it's like, oh! Like, there's one moment in this movie where there's a cutaway where one of the characters is like, well, I'll be damned. After like 4 or 5 cutaways of just staring at the ball rolling, and I'm like, I both like this moment because I like the tension that you're building, but at the same time, there is no tension that you're really building. So,
can I explain something that this movie makes me think of, and not in a good way?
Sure.
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack. Really?
Because there's no stakes to Caddyshack. What are the stakes to Caddyshack? Nothing. It's just them playing golf. But it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious. This movie doesn't really have humor, in my opinion.
Not really, no.
They try to making the character Eddie kind of funny, but like...
Yeah, I thought Eddie was the funniest part of this movie, but he's more of just the us, the audience, in the moment character.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Like, he's funny for sure, but he's not hilarious.
No.
Like, I wouldn't compare him to a Ned from Spider-Man.
No, he's not quite a Ned.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just like... This movie just, I don't think, knows what it wanted to be. And part of it, I think, is also, it is a Disney movie.
I do have one question.
I know I'm holding that against it, but Disney, when they do movies like this, try to make it so everyone seems like they're good. There's no real villain in this movie. Yeah, there's like the gentleman clubs, but like, are they the villain?
Not really.
Genuinely. No. Like, then we don't really have stakes at the end of this movie, personally. We have no one to truly dislike at the end of the movie. Which, I mean, you don't need a character to truly dislike, but when the plot of the movie doesn't have a, like, a villain, then, or like a central antagonistic force, I got there eventually. If there's no antagonistic force, then there's nothing to drive the suspense. There's nothing to drive the, like, why are our heroes doing what they're doing? Why is our protagonist going to beat the adversity? What even was the adversity? He was a
amateur,
a caddy.
Yeah, he was a caddy who became an amateur who, like, in a U.S. Golf Open with professionals.
Yeah, that you would, like, usually you need, like, even if it's a retelling of that kind of stuff, like, you need some sort of antagonist of some sort. Like, even if it's an outside force, not even a person, but something. And there really isn't any of that because there's no stakes. Because if he loses, well, maybe he proves his dad right, but is that really, like, in reality, for someone who lives in reality and not in this movie, is that really an awful thing?
No.
Is that the worst case scenario?
No. No. Like, I don't disagree with you. There's a lot of things where I wish there was more of it. Like, I wish there was an actual villain in this movie. But there's a lot that I have to give this movie when it comes to, like, technique and technicality. Like, for one instance, I couldn't find a single thing I disliked about the sound and the sound design. I thought everything that they did was great, from the sound of the ball flying through the air to the sound of them hitting the ball, or even the choice of music that they made. I liked all of it. Sure, some of it was used in a cheesy way, like slowing down Ladybug as it's flying through the air, but I still really enjoyed the sound design of this movie, and I liked what they did with the cinematography as well, like some of the things I had mentioned already. One thing that I had noticed a lot with this movie, which is very different with the next movie, is this movie's cinematography is very smooth, very floaty. The camera's always moving, basically. This was during the period when, like, what are they called? Steadicams started to become popular, and dollies were becoming cheaper. So, this is when a lot of cinematography started doing this kind of stuff. So, these are all things that I noticed, and I enjoyed. Still, the worst part about it was definitely the CG moments, and the fact that there was no villain, really, but I like this movie. I'd probably watch it again, honestly.
I wouldn't, personally. It doesn't... like I get why you like it from a cinematography like kind of standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
but outside of that, for me, this movie doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. There's no real entertainment value for you.
There's no entertainment value to this, in my opinion. Like from just a strictly casual view, I'd watch it once. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting one-time watch, especially if you like cinematography. But like, if you're looking for something with substance, with stakes, with with, I guess, meaning
Mm-hmm.
behind that cinematography, this movie doesn't really have it, personally.
I'd say, kind of. The meaning is ultimately following your dreams and not like stopping when people are against you, when the odds
I feel
are
like the
against
other
you.
movie does it better.
Okay, all right. I'm not gonna say yes or no to that quite yet. So
Fair.
All right.
I'll put that out there now. Like personally, like if it's better done in a lot of other movies that I've seen. Because I've watched a lot of sports movies growing up. My mom had a ton of different football movies, a ton of other sports movies. Like there's a ton of movies that are follow your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
That do it better, that have some more stakes, that make it feel like you earned it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just good job.
Yeah, that was another kind of thing I noticed too in the early parts of this movie. A lot of things felt given to our characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's just, yeah. I feel like it's been done better. So
Okay. Let's see. Do you have any other thing you want to talk about then in this movie, like acting from any characters?
acting was fine. I don't think there was anyone who was really a bad actor in this. I don't feel like there was a ton of sustenance to their acting though, because there wasn't a ton for them to be sustenant with.
Mm-hmm. I would like to say one character that I did enjoy the most, the one character that I feel like I enjoyed quite a bit, which
Ed Ray,
Ted Hastings, the other guy who came with Harry Varden.
Ed Ray
Says Hastings right here on IMDb.
Hastings was the other guy.
I know, but it says
Ed Ray's the one who.
Ted Ray was the teammate. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's for some reason. Oh well.
Ed Hastings is Justin Ashforth's character, the guy who backs up Shia's go into
The one with the
with the hat.
Yeah.
Ted
But
Ray was
either way. I liked
the bigger
his
golfer.
character because he was a bigger character who was actually taken kind of seriously. Because I've seen that only because he had a more serious role where he's like, yeah, I'm a badass. And of course it was a badass golf who drinks a lot. But still, it was kind of fun to see that it wasn't just another skinny person as well. Or another skinny gentleman. Because the only other time you see an overweight person in the camera is if they're an overweight mother or a fat bad guy. So I was like, oh, he's a fat good guy that I can appreciate. So that's nice. So
also, Max Crash is in this, who also was in a movie Shia was in before this, known as Holes, as Zigzag, the crazy-haired guy. Didn't realize it was him until I looked at IMDb. I'm like, oh shit, that is him. He plays our quote-unquote love interest. That's another boring thing in this movie. That did nothing.
Yeah, I feel like this movie, of course it was inspired based on true events of real life, but I feel like they took too many things from real life and tried to cram them into this movie. The biggest conflict, of course, was the characters' internal conflicts, but to get over them, we have the love interest for Frances, which we don't need her ultimately. She's just kind of there only because I guess she was there in history. And we have our caddy boy, he's a funny kid sometimes, but also not really needed to be that funny. I don't know.
I don't know. He's the only comic relief in the movie besides maybe Ted Ray, but those two don't I don't think this movie knows what it was supposed to be.
Does
that make sense?
I don't agree with you in that case, in that instance. Like, I feel like...
What is this movie supposed to be, then?
I feel like this movie is a journey of self-improvement. It's about following your dreams and becoming better. And it uses the vehicle of the U.S. Golf Open to do that. It just chose a bad vehicle, is my opinion. I don't...
Well, the problem is, they were already that good. They don't really improve in this movie, if that makes sense. That's not the message I took away. Because I felt like they were already at that level.
Not improving their game, but improving themselves as people.
But they don't really do that. Like, with Harry's character, like, you don't understand why his conflict is there, if that makes sense. Like, you know why, like, you have an idea why it's there, but, like, it's just there, if that makes sense. You don't see him come past it. You see him just go, okay, I'm past it. And with,
well, there's a key turning point where he changes, you know. Like,
in that one scene with, where they talk to the guy, right?
Yeah, and that's the main point with Harry. But there's another point before that with Harry and Ted and the other English dude who came, I guess, or the American, when they're out drinking at the bar. Like, when Ted does his thing, and... yeah. Like, that's the first moment of development. Of course, it's because it's from it's not necessarily Harry who's making the choice. It's Ted who does it, and that choice affects Harry. And then the next choice is Ted leaves because he doesn't want to do the same thing, so Harry does it for him, and he's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And then we get to the point at the end, because this whole movie he's been in conflict with the golf club, honestly, because I don't know, I feel like he is a member at this point, because
he's not.
He won the golf thing 10 years ago, and he was invited in the movie.
No, he was invited to teach.
I remember.
He wasn't invited in. That whole meeting was to be a tutor for them, to teach them how to play golf.
I feel like the premise... I could have just misread the scene, because this has happened before, because I saw it as the guy that was there with him was the one thinking that he was going to make it in, and then they started talking to Harry, going like, yes, you're making it in.
No, they thought Harry was making it in finally, but it was Harry was being like, that's why they asked the questions like, what about your parents? French, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we can work with that.
Yeah, and that gave me the impression that it doesn't matter that you're a good golfer, we'll let you in.
No, it was that they wanted him to teach them at the golf range. That's why when it happens, when the sound goes out.
That was a flashback. That was from 10 years in the past.
No, but that was when Francis was still a kid.
Yes. It was... Yeah. That was when, like, that was when Varden, though, was still, like, before, like, say Francis is 20 in this movie. I'd say Francis was 10 in this scene. When and he had won the golf tournament in the U.S. at this point in time. Yes. And that win is what gave him the membership.
He didn't get added to the club.
Then why is him winning important for the club, then?
Because they want to get golf, because the club wants England to have the trophy again, because they have at that point football, tennis, and a few other sports in England. England runs the sports world, but they don't have golf because an American just won the U.S. Open. They want the Brits to be the kings of sport. So they want Varden to win it, get it the trophy back to England.
But if Varden's not a part of the club, I feel like it misses the point of the whole movie then.
He's not part of the club. The reason he was going to be... Because if you listen to the pool table talk when they're there, before he gets Ted, they're like, and there's, an honorary membership in it for you. Okay. That's one of the things he says.
I missed that part then, because I just heard, and it's all paid for by the club. Everything's done because you're part of the club, by the club.
No. It's because the club wants England to have the trophy.
All right, then I must have missed that part then.
Because the scene back then, that's the reason why they do the whole, like, the sound drowns out moment when he's on the couch during that scene, is because they're like, yeah, no, we could use it as a teacher. That'd be great for us. Because he was really hopeful that he'd be part of the club finally, because that's something that he'd been working for.
Yep, since he was a young boy, where he'd been working there for years. Yes, I got that.
Yes. So that's why it drowns out, because they don't see him as being a gentleman. They see him as just a pro.
Tool.
Yes. So that's why the honorary membership thing is brought up too. Again, so by the end of it, like, yeah, I see the conflict of gentleman versus sport, if that makes sense. Like, his goal, he wants to play the sport because he enjoys the sport. I get that. But it's not done well outside of those two scenes.
All right. I got nothing else to say. Like, that's it. Cool. So, anything else you want to talk about before we hop into the next movie?
Nope. Let's hop into the next movie.
All right. So, Dev, I'm going to give you your popcorn kernels. How many are you going to give to the greatest game ever played?
I'll give it a, like... Is it, because it's Disney, do I give it, like, an extra bonus point?
I was going to ask you that after you gave it your score. I was going to wait for you to...
Is this a kid's film? Is this a Disney kid's film?
Would you
yes.
say?
All right, then I'll give it the 7.
Okay. I was about to say, if you're going to give it a 7...
You know what? I'm giving it a half point, if that makes sense. Because I would have given it a 6.5. Listen, hear me out.
Now, you can't be changing the rules here. It's one child's point.
Just hear me the fuck out for a second, because this also, like, doesn't feel like it's directed at kids, because what kids are going to watch a golf movie?
You know, rich white kids.
I don't. Shut up. Again, why I'm giving it a half point.
So you're 7 total with the kids?
7 total.
With the kind of kiddie point?
Fine. I was going to give it a 6 then, and we'll give it a 7.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yes. I am happier. You're not bending my rules.
Listen, either way, I'm not putting it past a 7, regardless of how I feel.
Right.
This movie could be a 7 in my head, and I'll just rank it a 6 so it doesn't go past a 7, because this movie has no reason.
I'm going to give this movie, with the kids' point, a 7.5.
Oh, you bastard. What's that, a 7.5 overall?
Yes, it does.
Let's get on to a real movie.
A real movie. One that's not all about kids. We're going on to Borg versus McEnroe. McEnroe.
Came out April 13th of 2018. It had a estimated budget. SEK? No idea what that means. Hold on. I think this is a different currency.
Probably Swedish.
Swedish krona. Which is $1 of that equals 11 cents here. Here, give me a second. I need to do some conversion math real quick to figure out how much this movie was worth.
Oh, it can't be worth money if it's in American dollars. I'm just kidding.
Shut up. So it is. I count my decimal places. Like 17 million.
Okay.
To make the film. U.S. opening, it made 52 million. Gross U.S. it made 230 million, but worldwide it made 3 million. Surprise! This movie's actually really entertaining, in my opinion.
Okay.
I genuinely really enjoyed this film, and especially, okay. So, reason I enjoy this film, the entire movie, the rivalry between Borg and McEnroe is built up throughout it, through them watching each other play, A, and B, through how the outside responds to them. Because Borg is the machine, and McEnroe is the rebel. If you know anything about it, like McEnroe is known for his outbursts and stuff like that. To the point that it's a joke in commercials now when he shows up into it that he has an outburst in them, or like they try to egg him on to do it. He's like, I'm not really that guy anymore. Stuff like that. They poke fun at his known rage in the sport. And he was the bad boy of tennis. Is the best way to put it. And then Borg was this relentless hammer that just broke you down throughout the match. Some of his serves, you just can't. They're there, they're gone, they're out. You point, and it's like, damn. So like seeing that build up, especially because the start of this movie starts with their match at the beginning, right before the serve, and then we get their build up to that moment. I think that's awesome. It builds up to that moment perfectly. It shows what each of them are willing to do. It shows what each of them have to go through. It shows each of them growing to that moment. That entire match is intense, and I think it's one of my favorite moments in a sports movie ever. Because it's like that match is something else. I didn't realize how insane that match was. This movie also teaches you a lot about tennis, and I really appreciate that. For those who are uneducated about the sport, it teaches you it without being an asshole about it.
Yeah, it doesn't pull like every movie ever where it's like, this is the rules of the game and how you play.
This is a touchdown. It's worth 6 points.
Yeah.
Field goals are worth 3, unless it's an extra point, which are worth 1. No, this movie slowly teaches you things like as it comes up, as needed. Sort of like funny story. It's like how I taught our friend Joe, if you've watched our streams with Mass Effect, how I taught him what a safety was in football was hilarious. It was during the Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl when the first points were a safety. I was like, so I was explaining the ways to score real quick because he understood some, but he didn't understand all. I was like, the rarest being a safety, and then it happened. I'm like, that. The movie kind of does that. Like when there's a tiebreaker, they explain it because it's like, for those who don't know, because it's the first time that's ever happened at Wimbledon. This is what that is. Because like maybe you don't watch tennis throughout the year, but you catch Wimbledon because it's Wimbledon. It teaches you that, which I feel is better than other sports movies might do. And just like that whole like them overcoming their own selves to get to that final match is awesome. Like you see a lot of growth in each of their characters to that point. Like you see them like questioning what they're doing, and then in that match you see them growing off of each other, like just because of the challenge that the other one presents, that the beast that the other one has created, because they both want it so badly. But that end is like 30 minutes, right?
I think so, yeah.
Because damn, is it a 30 minutes that like the entire time? I remember I chose to stay at the laundromat to fold clothes because I was watching it on my phone. I chose to fold my clothes there because I didn't want to stop the movie. I sat there, folded my clothes because I wanted to keep watching because of how like just intense that match is. Okay. I'm like, okay, this has drawn me in so well through the buildup of the rest of the movie, and just the tension of one of these guys is trying to go for the 5-time, the other one is trying to beat the machine and be a rookie winner. Both of them have stakes at that point. One's trying to prove that he's not just some loudmouth kid on the court. He's trying to prove that he is good at the sport. He deserves to be recognized in the sport. Because the entire time, whenever he's being talked about, they're like, but Borg. And he's like, but me. Recognize me in what I can do. While with Borg, it's like, well, if I lose, what do I be remembered for then? Which is really it's a real question that a lot of like people have to deal with. And so it's just like, I don't know. It's like the build up throughout. I really enjoyed this movie. Okay. I genuinely really enjoyed this movie. I think it might be one of my favorite sports movies.
Okay. Now that you've gone on your rant while you like it, I'm going to say that I thought this movie was kind of boring. Like, Don't get me wrong. Through what this movie did, it definitely it told me through its cinematography that Borg was a person who is very conflicted with his life at the moment. He is a ritualistic person where he thinks that everything comes down to this one moment. Where if he loses, all anyone's going to remember him as is a loser, not as a 4-time winner, but as a loser, and that's it. And that's his conflict in the movie. For our other person, McEnroe. His conflict is that he's always in the shadow of Borg, where he is one, like you said, when he's at an interview, people are asking him about Borg. But if they're not asking him about Borg, they're asking him about his temper and not about the game that he was playing, or like they're asking him everything else except for the reason why he's there, which is the game of tennis. So that I understood as well. But what they do in this movie is they do a lot of the slow and intense stare down moments. They have a lot of just talking. A bunch of the cinematography is just handheld, light shaking cinematography, and that was kind of boring. The first 45 minutes to like hour of this movie, to me, I was having a hard time paying attention through. Like, don't get me wrong. Normally, I enjoy that kind of stuff where it's a slow story build and you get to understand what this character development is. But something about this film didn't catch my attention. And, like, I even have it on my note pages. Like, this is my only page of notes. When compared to the greatest game ever played, I have 4 pages of notes. Well, 2 double-sided.
Oh, that movie's boring!
To me, it's the other way around. And even looking at IMDb, the ratings are very minorly different, but the greatest game ever played has a higher rating in IMDb.
Yeah, but Metacritic it's far higher than the greatest game.
Let's see, Metacritic, sure, I might give you that. Let me double check Metacritic real fast. It's about 8 points.
Metacritic
difference.
55 for greatest game and 63 for Borg versus McEnroe.
Yeah. They're both really close. They're just, depending on who you ask, they're slightly different. And in this movie, I liked the acting. I thought the person who did Borg was great. I thought Shia did great as McEnroe.
Sever Goodsnan. I think that's how you Severny.
Like
Severier. Gunsen.
Gunsen, yeah. Severier Gunsen.
I can say Gunsen. Thank you. Some stuff for that. By the way, love that he showed up in our Marvel person of the day, Mr. Stellan Skarsgård. Love to see it. Skarsgårds are always great in movies, by the way. They're a different act. He does play Eric Selvig in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, you know, it's always good to see him.
Yeah. But in this movie, like, nothing really got my attention until the final bout between the two of them. And the only part that really grabbed me was I can't really go into details, but it's, like, I guess my biggest complaint about this film, without going into super spoilery details, is how they tell their story isn't necessarily through just us living through it, but they have a lot of actual textual based exposition going on, where it'll be like, it is now this year at this time, and then they show us what we need to know, and then they're like, okay, now it is this year at this time, and then they show it what they need to know, and then, like, I guess the reason why I like the greatest game ever played is the story is done chronologically, so we start from the young person, and then we go to the next young person, and then we go to the slightly older young person, and then we go to, adult life, and then it's all done in a row, so it all makes sense how it progresses chronologically. In this movie, we're jumping through, we start at one point in time, which is right before the game, and then we go back to, like, days before the game, and then we go to years before the game, and then we go back to months before the game, and then we're back to hours before the games, and then, like, and it's all done via text position, not just being told that it's, like, it's not naturally organic, it's just a break. And then, I don't know, everything else about this felt like slow to me, I guess. Like, they do express that there is a competition here. They don't really explain. In the aspect of this movie, our bad guy, our antagonist is Shia Labeouf. Because the main character is definitely Borg. Bjorn Borg. But at the end of the day, this is like a positive movie for both of them. And I don't know. It's just something about this film didn't quite hit me the same way. It's a good movie.
Which one did you watch first?
I watched The Greatest Game Ever Played first.
Yeah, I watched this first.
Okay.
I wonder if we would have different opinions if we did that. But, I don't know. For me, it's kind of weird that you're doing, you're the exact opposite of me on these. I like how you're copying me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, for me, The Greatest Game has 0 stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There isn't stakes by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
In this movie,
there's
stakes on both sides.
Yes.
And you understand, you kind of want both of... You wish there was a way both of them could win, because you understand both their sides.
Yeah.
Even though they're each other's antagonists in this, you also understand that, it's not because, they're necessarily evil, it's because, they each have a goal that they need to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Though I feel like in this case, I'd say McEnroy's backstory and explanation is a little less defined.
But it is. I wish that's the one thing I really wish would have been expanded on was more of him in his past, because you only get a little bit of it.
Yeah, it's very much a lot of Borg, which of course this is his movie.
It's his movie. It's done in Sweden, so Mm-hmm. I 100% understand why they did it that way. If it was called McEnroy versus Borg, then yeah, I feel like it'd probably been flipped.
Yeah.
Which redo the film, people. Do it again.
Yeah, but that is one thing I do like as well. It's I really enjoyed how much of this film was actually done in Swedish. We actually had to sit here and read what was going on, and I appreciated that. Especially
I don't mind subtitles. I watch anime.
No, yeah, I don't mind subtitles either, but it was nice. It was refreshing because it was I don't know what it is, where in other movies when we have different languages, they always do something where, say for instance, I'm going to directly compare it to a show I've been watching called, what's it called now? Altered Carbon, where people speak English because they have a translator on. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of Vikings. My apologies. I'm thinking of the TV show Vikings. God, I've watched too many shows lately. In Vikings, everybody speaks English when they're speaking Nordish, I believe. When they're speaking Nordish, they're speaking some kind of gibberish. I think it's actually Nordish, but every language is actually spoken, but until they get to English. And then it's okay, we're speaking the same language as each other now, but it's English. In this movie, they don't take the time to be they don't translate everybody to be the same. Everybody speaks in their own natural language, and I enjoy that. I don't know.
I don't mind it at all. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that if this movie was made, where was this movie made? What production studio made this movie?
It was made in Sweden, obviously, but SF Studios Production, AB, Danish Film Institute, Film Ivast.
Okay.
That's all I see right now for production companies.
That is totally fine. But the point I'm getting, if this was made in the U.S., it would, all of those commentators that we get in this movie would be speaking English. They'd still be the different nationalities, but they'd be caricatures of those nationalities, all of them speaking English. And that's why one of the things I like about this movie, where it's not that way, where they're speaking their own individual languages as their own individual people. So that's something I can give it. I'm trying to, I don't know, talk without saying bad things. Because there aren't many bad things, but there are also many good things to me. It's just...
I just kind of find that surprising, because I genuinely thought this movie was the better story. and better acted. Not to say again that the greatest game had bad acting. I just feel like there wasn't any sustenance for them to act on. And that like, I'm sorry, but the cheesy CGI and the cheesy Disney-ness of the greatest game kind of kills that movie for me because it just kind of kills the stakes.
No, I can appreciate that for sure.
It's just that there isn't an antagonist in it. There isn't like, yeah, if Shia loses, America doesn't get the cup again. It was a fluke. Okay. And like, I don't know. I don't feel like that's like the biggest of stakes. Like, we've had that before, like Miracle and stuff like that. We've had those kind of movies, and they've done it better. Like,
I guess my big complaint is with this movie, we go through a lot of the same things. Like, I understood what Borg's emotions were and what his problems were. I'm not going to say early within the movie, but I got the point that, yes, he is upset and he feels like everything rides on this one moment in his life. But they keep coming back to that, and then they keep coming back to it. And I guess I just got bored.
If it's the entire tournament, yeah, that's going to be the key thing. That's like, okay, since I've talked about it on stream before, for the other podcast, it's kind of like with me when I was going to the Marines. That moment of, like, honestly, in the moment that I failed, I felt like that's all I would be remembered for. Was that I failed that. Because I had been building up to that for the last year, right? I had an entire going away party. There was a ton of other things involved with it. There was a lot of stuff built on, hey, all rides on this. I have to succeed. There is there is no failure in this.
Yeah.
There cannot be.
I'm getting the point. I understand where you're going with this. I guess the point, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off a little bit.
Oh, you're fine.
I guess you're more personally connected to this story and these characters, so you like this story better. Where with me, I don't have any connection to any of these characters, so I just like the technicality of the greatest game.
I attach to both of them, I guess, because one's the emotional, like, really cares a lot, so he puts a lot of emotion to things. Not that I've ever done that. What?
Not at all.
Not at all. And the other one, like, during that month that happened, like, let's go with the month before and the month after. That's all my life was for a bit. I focused on leaving, failed, and for the next month, I moped around, dude. I was a miserable motherfucker during that time. Like, I didn't care anymore. Because everything I had worked towards was gone. And like, hey, for me, it taught me a lot having that happen. I am far more equipped to deal with failure than I ever would have been. Had I made it through. Like, honestly, I deal with failure without falling into just a crushing defeat. Yeah, I'm hard on myself, and I'm always going to be hard on myself, but, like, I don't sit there and be like, for the next week, like, man, I should have made that shot in Valorant.
Speaking of which, you want to play that later?
It depends on if Jay asked me to play some Destiny. Maybe I'm going to play that later. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm sorry. I'm just in case. If he's still on, maybe.
Okay.
If not, then yeah, I'm on, dude. I'm on. Anyways. So I identify a lot with both these characters in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I'm like, man, I really wish both of them could have won. And yeah, like, when we go into if you don't know the history, we'll explain it during spoilers. But like, it's just, I think also it feels more like how it probably felt during it, if that makes sense. Like, the greatest game ever played feels like a theatrical version of.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It feels like a dolled up version of the greatest game ever played. It feels like a Disneyfied version.
Yeah, and this feels like
especially with that opener and stuff like that. While this feels like probably how that felt. And that's why I, like, at least for those two, how that felt for them. And that's why when we get to that match, how intense it is, That's why I'm so invested in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I could see, like, I don't disagree with you, and, like, I could see your point, honestly. It's just...
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, for me, I'm just sitting here, and, like, I enjoyed the movie. I sat here, I watched it, I liked a lot of the parts of it. I liked the character, I liked the development that they all had. It's just that I felt like it... I guess I probably would have enjoyed it more if it was maybe a bit shorter of a movie. Like, this movie is an hour and 47 minutes with credits. So I'm probably going to say an hour and 40 minutes without credits. I don't know. Like, if it was an hour and 30-minute film, I probably might have enjoyed this a little bit more.
I couldn't, like, I got bored in that 2-hour film we watched before this.
I getcha. Like, I don't know what it is.
It's so weird.
It's just something about this movie didn't quite tickle me the right way. And it could just be the fact that I am more disconnected with tennis than I am with golf, but I don't know. I don't like either sport. I don't connect with either side of either characters. It's just, this movie definitely has more of a conflict, has better character development, but I can't bring myself to say that this is a better movie. I don't know. I don't know. And I can't necessarily explain why either. Call me a terrible critic. Can't explain my own thoughts. I know you do, don't worry.
I never have said that.
You call me a hypocritical critic.
I mean, I'm gonna call. I have been tempted this entire time.
I know.
Because the issues today show that. But Steven, it's part of who you are. It's okay. I accept you.
I don't know. Like,
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I'm trying to, like, I want to decipher why your brain's looking at this. Part of me wishes that we would have been able to watch this twice beforehand now, too. Like, second viewings and stuff like that in some cases. But
I just, for me, I guess a lot of it has to do with cinematography still. And this was all just a bunch of the same cinematography. Just straight angles of shaky cameras and then text position. Text position. I don't know.
See, my problem with the other one is that, like, yeah, it's got some cool cinematic moments, but there's awful CGI throughout it that break the movie. Legitimately, there's so many broken CGI moments in that movie that it's really outstanding for a movie that's about golf. You could have just shot people playing golf on a nice camera.
Like, I'm going to disagree with that there. Because I feel like inherently tennis is a more entertaining game than golf. So the fact that they could make a golf movie and I was entertained by it.
I don't know how, dude. I was bored shitless. Because it's just them walking around. Occasionally the CGI ball goes in front of the camera. And I'm like, dude, this doesn't feel real, is my problem with it. Like,
but it was real.
No. Like,
the scores happened that way.
I don't know. Like, it just... Yeah, and like in the last one, the scoreboard broke it for me a little bit, too, because it just felt really cheesy seeing all the scores go... with, like, Francis's being there the entire time. Like, that felt cheesy as hell to me, too.
Like, the point was because none of the other people matter, so of course his name is going to be the one in focus as it's moving
Yes,
around.
I get that. But it still felt really cheesy. Okay. Like that, like it felt cheesy to me. I guess for me, I as I've grown up, I don't really care for cheesy sports movies. I guess if they're going off of something that really happened.
Sports have to be serious.
Well, no, not necessarily, but I want to understand like in Miracle, okay? You understand the stakes of that movie because it's during the Cold War. Yeah, America needs to beat Russia during this to kind of show that they're America. And they've had their asses handed to them how many times by the Russian hockey team at that point? They want the gold. And so, like, there's the stakes to it. Like, you understand this during the Cold War. This is, like, it's not just a win, it's a political message of superiority over your enemy. And they make you feel that in some cases. You know what I mean? Like, they make you feel some of that tension from that time. I like my sports movies, if they're based off of true things, to be sort of realistic, I guess.
Okay.
And not feel cheese festy, like Invincible, or Blindside, or Greatest Game Ever. Like, I think that's my problem. If it's based off of real events, I'd rather feel the stakes of the real events. Because, like, again, there could have been stakes. America it needs to defend this to prove that they are golf champions, right? You could have made those the stakes. And, like, there technically are the stakes, but they don't feel like the stakes. Yeah, because they feel like an afterthought.
I don't know, because in the first movie, they tell the story via both the scoreboard, which, of course, that I felt like that was a slightly better in-universe storytelling movement than, like, they'll show you how the scores move and where the players are in the course of the game, because this is actually how they used to do it in the game world with this giant scoreboard. But in this movie, they'll actually put, like, the scores transparency over the screen as the players are playing, and it doesn't feel organic and natural to me based on how the scores would go throughout the day. And with the Greatest Game Ever Played...
Are you talking about the final match?
Yes. And even some before that.
That's how it went. Well, they don't really show it before that.
But, like, sorry, let me continue, though. I don't even know where I was going anymore.
No, go ahead.
I can't remember what I was saying.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's my bad. It's just...
It's fine.
I have a nitpick occasionally. No, I guess for me, it's just like... Borg versus McEnroe feels real. Even if it's got that, like, the overshot thing to show when we get to it, I'll explain that game, what it's from. But, like, I get the score of the other one, but, like, there's not, there's no stakes. This one has stakes. It has a reason for why both of them want to win, I guess.
And I just don't need the stakes, I guess, in this case, for these movies. Like, in either instance, I could have watched these movies for any reason. Like, we watch movies for no reason all the time. And sure, the storytelling might be better, I guess, but it doesn't feel better to me. I don't know. Like, I like story without being told what's happening, and in this movie with Borg versus McEnroe, we're told everything up until the very end. All of it's done through conversation. Until the last moments.
I just feel like in the other one, we're not told anything.
Alright. I don't think our conversation's going to change much other than that at this point.
I think we've hit that point. Yeah. So I'll give you your popcorn.
Alright. So for Borg versus McEnroe, I'm going to give this movie a 6. Just a 6.
Wow.
It's a fine movie.
Wow.
It's a good movie. It's just...
That doesn't say good movie, but whatever.
It's
I
above
gave it a
average
9.
movie. All right, a 9. All right.
That puts it 7.5, I think.
Yeah.
That, I think, is the biggest point that deviation we've had all year.
That's fine, honestly. Like, if it wasn't for the extra child point for The Greatest Game Ever Played, that would only have a 6.5 for me. So, ultimately, these two movies aren't really much different. But it's just, I personally enjoy The Greatest Game Ever Played more. But, let's talk about and start spoiling Borg versus McEnroe.
Let's get ready to spoiler!
Okay, let me explain this to you now.
Why I'm wrong. All right.
Yes.
I'm not going to listen then.
Fuck off. Okay. The reason why I think this one has way better stakes, from a point of spoilers, is that they build up Borg's, like, they build up his need to be the best. Okay?
It's just anxiety, honestly. To me.
That's not anxiety.
No, that's, like, they build up his need to be the best using cinematography that is similar to induced anxiety. Like, it's all a bunch of moments where it's like, it's like his background explanations make sense to me. Where it's like he was a young child who used to be angry, but he got past that anger to prove that he was great at the game. And Borg does that. That's awesome. But then once we're in this moment for the heat of this game, of this fifth game, it all goes into anxiety. Where it's like every time he thinks about this game and what's going to happen next, we start getting flashes of people, like, people talking, and, like, he's droning out, and he spaces out, and, like, he literally doesn't want to exist. That tells, it's like, sure, it's life or death for him. Yes, sure, whatever, because that's what the golf game is for him. But...
tennis.
My apologies. The tennis game is for him. But I still didn't quite feel like... of the gripping sensation to watch this movie. Like, it had brief moments that I liked, but and I agree with you that the character development and the story of what happens to these characters is better in this movie than it is in Borg than it is in The Greatest Game Ever Played. But I still, like, at the moment, don't see it as a better, like, entirely that much greater film. Like, there's positives for this movie for sure, be it the storytelling aspects, but then the negatives is the boring cinematography.
I didn't find the cinematography boring, though.
I did.
I felt it was shot like a tennis match, or like how it would feel to be like during a tennis match, you are staring down your opponent. So, like, that's what part of that match is gonna be like. They're sizing up
the match part,
what they're gonna do and stuff.
The match part itself, the part where they're actually playing the game, is the best part of the movie for me. The finale, where they're actually showing.
Well, I feel like the other ones are good too.
The other matches, yes, but I thought overall the whole thing was kind of boring. When it came to the personal conversations, it was all handheld and straight on close-ups. When it came to the matches sure might have felt like we were actually watching a tennis game, but I don't enjoy watching tennis. And
that's turned me into maybe watching tennis at this point. I think I found a sport I might enjoy.
All right. And then when it came to watching the actual final game, the final sets and all that fun stuff, we start finally having some interesting stuff for me, where sure, we get cuts of the actual game. We get cuts of... we get cuts of the crowd reactions. We get cuts of the people's reactions. We get the intense moments of the games itself. We get the commentators themselves doing stuff, which, by the way, I hated the line, I'm going to light a cigar, because it's a victory cigar, hopefully. Like, I hated that line, but...
I think they actually said that.
Yes, they did, and that's why it was in there. But I didn't like it. It was unneeded in the movie. It added nothing to the movie itself. It was just because it happened in real life, it was there. But I'm not going to say that's a bad thing.
So, to counter that,
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
When the stupid paper guy was like, this will be the greatest game ever played.
Yes, I thought that was a CinemaSins roll credits moment, where I was like, yep, this is dumb.
That was dumb.
I don't disagree.
Okay, all right, as long as the two of them, you at least agree that they would both be dumb.
Yes.
Because I think the victory, like, I think that, because again, it is real life on both of them, but like, it feels, again, I guess my problem with the greatest game version of it, I guess, is that it feels hammed up and cheesy as hell. While that one feels like this is this commentator being like, man, no matter what happens next, this game is over. I'm stressed. I need a cigar. I'm stressed. I need a cigar. And I fucking hope it's a victory cigar, because I can't I can't take it anymore. I need a smoke. Because that game, I need to actually look up how long that match actually lasted. Because Jesus Christ, could you imagine being the guy watching that?
Like, I'm sure it was entertaining if you are entertained by tennis. Like, don't get me wrong. The last fight was the last games, I don't know what they call it, the last set, and then the remaining sets or whatever, the overall game set match that we got to see of this game between McEnroe and Borg versus McEnroe, was great. I really enjoyed that part of the game. It was the movie. It was the best part of the movie for me. So, like, I'm not arguing that it's not good.
Okay.
It's just...
No, I know you're not arguing that it's not good.
Yeah.
I get that. God, I wish you would tell me how long it was. Give me a match length.
The 1980s Wimbledon. Okay.
It's giving the match points and all that, I guess. Four hours is how long that lasted.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, could you imagine playing tennis for 4 hours? The endurance needed for that. That also adds a lot more to those lines that they say too, like, because in reality, they talk about like during the fourth, I think it's the fourth match, when Borg gives up 7 set points, that most people would have been done at that point, because mentally you're done at that point.
Sorry,
you know,
I'm laughing here because I put my plastic trombone in front of the door, so I just saw the door like, and it closed again. So yeah.
Like at that point, that's like close to probably about 3 hours of playing at that point. Probably maybe a little longer. Because they had a tiebreaker during that to get that last point. That went 16-18.
I guess I remember another question I was going to ask you. Music. At one point in this, the cinematography, the direction that they took with these movies was 100% the opposite directions. One was gritty, realistic. One was, bubbly and optimistic, we'll say. And I was wondering, is a lot of that has to do with me is the music. Like, I'm wondering if you're getting this was cheesy because the entire time the music was kind of cheesy.
Maybe.
Like,
probably.
Because the entire time the music I felt was like I was watching the Great British Bake Off, where there's like where it's like happy and like
Again, I think my biggest problem with that movie is just there isn't stakes. Even Holes had stakes. Like Zero and Stanley's relationship are on the line during it, and their lives are on the line during part of it. There's some stakes to that. To me, they don't really establish the stakes of the greatest game, while this one they do, and I think I invest more when there's stakes. Definitely, 100%. That's why I like thrillers. Thrillers have to have stakes, or else they're not going to be enjoyable. Could you imagine a Mission Impossible movie without stakes?
I mean, some could argue that there aren't any stakes in Mission Impossible, but I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry, but you and me both enjoyed the shit out of Fallout.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's not saying that I couldn't write a paper saying that it really doesn't matter what happens in the movie, but I'm not going to.
Especially that scene where you don't know if he hit the button in time or something like that, and then all of a sudden it goes to sun.
Yeah.
God, that was such a good shot. Like, I can't wait to buy. I'm gonna buy that whole collection, add to my movie collection, because like just that scene alone, like we haven't talked about it in a long time, but that movie was fucking awesome. Anyways, back to the movies we're talking about. I feel like, I guess I like the realism. I like the stakes. I like the character portrayals. I attach to them better. It feels more real. Because also these people are, I know John McEnroe is still alive. We don't check if Bjorn is. Yeah, he's still alive.
And they became best of friends years later.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, even like, yeah, I mean, it's a really cool story in my opinion. And like McEnroe beats Borg the year after. And Borg's like, you know what? I'm 26. I have 5 Wimbledon championships. I can retire.
Yeah. I was about to say, he's played for 6 years and retired after 6 years of playing, basically.
Well, 6, he's played for a little longer than 6, but he's been to 6 Wimbledon finals.
Yeah.
And won 5 of them. Like,
yeah, it's a lot.
That's like Jimmy Johnson from NASCAR. Like, what? How many years in a row he won the fucking Cup Series? I was like, you know what? When he retired, he's like, I'm like, you know, you have like 5 or 6 Cup championships. Good on you, Jimmy Johnson. Retire. You've earned it, man. Or like Brady switching teams from the Patriots. I hate the shit out of Brady. And he's going to the Buccaneers, I think, which will be interesting. But I understand why he's switching from the Patriots. They've won how many fucking times in a row on that team? He can go to Florida to retire. That's how I look at it. He's going to the Buccaneers to hit his retirement line. You know what's going to be hilarious? If the Buccaneers win this year and beat the Patriots in the AFC East, I would honestly find... Oh, wait, no. I think they're NFC East.
I may know nothing about sports, but I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure Brady can't be the one reason why the Buccaneers win. Especially because the Buccaneers aren't used to playing with deflated footballs. So, I think we're done spoiling.
I gotta figure out what fucking NFC South. Okay, the Buccaneers are in the NFC South with the Saints, the Falcons, and the Carolina Panthers. Oh man, they're gonna be in the same division as the Seahawks. Fuck. Oh no, that means they play Brady at least. Oh.
All right, we're going to news so we can start talking about a subject I enjoy: movies.
Guys, Borg versus McEnroe has my seal of approval and maybe my favorite sports movie.
All right, absolutely. So, onwards and outwards to the news and wrap up.
All right.
So, once again, not much news in the world. Eventually, I'll figure out why my clackboard isn't working again, but still.
Is it broken again?
I never was able to fix it.
That's weird because my screen turn is still working.
Yeah.
And it uses the same thing for him, right?
Yeah. So
do you have to remake it?
I might have to, and I really don't want to. I might just have to re-render it, but we'll find out.
Honestly, that would probably fix it.
But let's see here. So a couple of things I want to talk about news-wise. Little Women earns nearly $100 million overseas as theaters start to reopen overseas, by the way. So Little Women is a movie that was released last year for the Oscars, to be contended for the 2019 Oscars. But now that theaters are reopening, Little Women is still being released in foreign theaters. And this last weekend, they made over $100 million. So there's that. I'm not happy about that, honestly, only because we're still in a time where everybody's sick. So, or can get sick. We all have Schrodinger's virus. So, I don't know.
Well, yeah, like, I will say, if those theaters in those countries, are they in countries that are, like, doing well against the virus?
Let's see. The foreign haul a majority of those ticket sales came from Japan.
I think Japan's doing all right against it, right?
The film most of the money came from Japan, and then another good portion of it came from Denmark. And then they said there's a slight income in China, but not much.
I mean, like Japan's already at the point. Are they like where their numbers are low again? Denmark. Here, I'm just gonna type in coronavirus. Sorry, stats. That's what I've been using because it has a chart for it. Worldwide.
We're finding out the deep investigations. Dev determining if what I just said was dumb because he likes being conflictual.
No, I'm just curious. No, I'm legitimately just curious. I just like looking into these things. So there's Denmark. They're only at 12,000 confirmed cases right now and 11,000 recovered. So they're doing pretty good against it from what it looks like. And Japan is at 17,000 and 15,000 recovered. With under 1,000 deaths. Denmark was under, like, Japan's at 925. It looks like death total. Denmark only at 598. So I think they're doing all right in that regard, I guess. Compared to other places, cough cough may start with US of A. So, I mean, if they're at the point where they can start legitimately, like, and safely opening.
Good for them.
Yeah, because personal opinion, me and Steven have talked about this, I don't know if we're going to theaters even if they reopen. Like,
at least not here. For instance, in my personal life right now, in about 10 days, I have a friend who's moving in Arizona. He's the same friend who helped me move from Arizona to California. And then once again, when I moved from my first house in California to my second house, he visited and helped me move that way. So, like, I personally want to go out there and visit him and help him move. But in Arizona, coronavirus cases are spiking. We're just in the last
We're like 300%.
Yeah, in the last 3 days, they've had over 4,000 confirmed cases. So, like, I want to visit my friend. I want to help him move. But I am so afraid to leave this house to do that. Like, I mean,
you're asthmatic. You are at
I don't
risk.
want to die.
You shouldn't leave the house, like, legitimately.
But I want to help him, and that's the problem I'm having.
I know.
So at least, lucky for some people that they can go and see movies and stuff. But here, it's a different story for sure.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I guess I can bring some news. I don't know if you had this on the docket. J.K. Rowling being another...
her transphobia.
God, can she just shut up already?
If she needs to, if she's going to write anything, it needs to stop being through Twitter. And she could write more about the Harry Potter world through Pottermore. She can write her own, like, thesaurus, like the great works of the Star Wars books that you have. The complete novelization works or something.
And I genuinely don't like her at this point. Like, I know, like, before a lot of people looked at her as a progressive, but, like, the problem with being her kind of progressive is it's progressive to a point where it's like,
and now that we've reached that point,
everyone's great except for you. You group are not great, and that pisses me off. It's just like, I don't know, like.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining, though, to see all the stars of Harry Potter rise up and speak against her, though. It was like...
Yeah. It makes me question if we ever did the Harry Potter series, like, how we would go about it. Because I just, like, part of me doesn't want to give her another dime.
Like, the Harry Potter series in itself, too, is an interesting story as it is. Because they don't really split evenly into, like, different fractures. I mean, you could figure it out, sure, but I don't know.
Are there about like weeks to do it and stuff like that?
Yeah, I know that overall there are 8 movies if I
there are 8 movies.
Yeah, so we'd probably have to do like the first 3, the second 3, and then the last 2, but that doesn't.
I don't want to devote honestly to Harry Potter. I grew up liking the Harry Potter movies and read the books.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely, I don't know if I want to spend more than 2 weeks on that franchise because it's just like.
But that's so many movies. See,
that's
what we'll
4
have
movies
to do,
a week.
What we'd have to do is do one a month. Like, here's our Harry Potter week this month. Here's our Harry Potter week next month, and then we'll ignore it for like 3 or 4 months, and then we'll do another Potter week.
I would rather just knock them out because honestly, especially as they go on, I think the Harry Potter movies I think break into 2 parts. There's the first 4, which are more true to the books,
mm-hmm.
and the last 4 that break the rules of the books multiple times. But they're not necessarily bad movies.
Not at all.
But if you like the books, and read the books,
which I have,
you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
See, I guess it's been a while since I've watched the Harry Potter movies, but one of the things that I really like about the Harry Potter movies, especially the last 4, is how the tone and mood shifts. Where in the first 3 films, it's the first 4 movies, it's all about the joy and the light and the magic of the wizarding world.
Until the 4th movie where it ends, and then the next 4. The 4th movie is the perfect cutoff to the next 4. But then they start breaking more from the books because they want to cram as much. They don't. I know the Harry Potter Part 2 broke the movie circuit because everyone's like, oh, well, if Harry Potter did it, we should just break ours into 2.
That was the
honestly,
turning
with
point.
the Harry Potter movies, honestly, more of them should have been 2 parts.
I agree. A lot of there's a lot of that was taken out of the Harry Potter movies, but I was happy with what we got myself.
I mean,
it's been a few years since I've seen the Harry Potter movies. I'll be honest.
Same. But I don't do them like I do Star Wars or Marvel.
Yeah, no. Well,
or Lord of the Rings. I have watched Lord of the Rings far more times than I have Harry Potter.
Same. Which I think it's kind of funny. Have you seen? We're getting kind of sidetracked now. I'll bring that up intentionally, but have you seen the millennial or Gen Z talk about millennials on TikTok? It's like a meme.
And they're talking shit about us right now?
Yeah. It's almost always that they're talking shit, and it's and they talk shit if you talk shit about Harry Potter in their Hufflepuffle house.
They didn't grow up with what we grew up with.
But still, I'm not one of those people who was like, I'm a Ravenclaw, and I'm proud.
I'm a Gryffindor.
I don't remember what I was, honestly. I don't really care.
Oh. I don't know what you would be. I want to say Hufflepuff, but you also are the intellect, so maybe Ravenclaw.
Hang on.
But you also are cunningly annoying sometimes.
Pottermore. I took the quiz before. Let me find out once I log into Pottermore.com.
I'm a Gryffindor, but apparently if I'm not a Gryffindor, I'm a Ravenclaw. Which is really surprising to me.
Sorry, it's mywizardingworld.com now.
Oh, goody.
No. Let's see. I am a Ravenclaw, according to the test. And
I'm still confused. Before I did the Pottermore test, I've always gotten Gryffindor.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did the Pottermore test on one email. I got Ravenclaw. On the other, I got Gryffindor. Because they changed the test, by the way, each time you take it.
Yes.
So and I answered it honestly on both of them. So I guess I'm the intellectual Gryffindor. Shut up! I know I'm not proving my point right now.
No, you're not.
You don't have to speak good to be intellectual.
Sadly, that's true.
Hey,
speaking of which, my wand is the U Wood wand with a phoenix feather core that is 10 3/4, slightly springy flexibility. And my Patronus is a dolphin.
I'm not surprised on your Patronus. That is so fitting.
So yeah, there we go.
Mine's like the Saint Bernard, and then I think I have a phoenix feather wand as well.
Okay. Harry Potter. There we go. Okay. More news here.
Yeah, no, fuck J.K. Rowling. Back to that. Back to news.
Seeing as you're interested in tennis now, Dev, Amazon takes multi-territory rights to a tennis documentary called Unraveling Athena, which has been directed over the past over 4 years by Francis Amat, and the film explores the life and experiences of some of tennis's most decorated women players, including 20 of former number one players.
I mean, I'm down to watch it. I like after this movie, I'm genuinely interested in tennis. I might start watching tennis. It's kind of cool how a movie can spark an interest in something like that.
So yeah, that movie comes out July 13th to Amazon Prime Video. So in a month, you can see this tennis documentary on Amazon Prime.
Nice. Oh, did you hear how bad Artemis Fowl apparently is done?
I have not. I was about to start watching it today.
I'd hold off.
Why? Are we going to watch it on
Talk
this channel?
after the show. Talk after the show. Talk after the show. Talk after the show, Steven.
Fine. Okay. I can watch it twice. All right. Fine. Then the next thing I want to talk about then is, you know how these last 3 weeks we've had, protests about human rights and police brutality.
They're doing great, by the way.
They are.
The Breonna Taylor law that passed.
That's true.
That's awesome.
I find that bittersweet. It is both amazingly awesome that passed, but at the same time,
what happened to cause it?
Yes, and the fact that those people still aren't in jail.
Oh God! Like, arrest the guys who murdered Breonna Taylor.
Yes.
How many people have to say it? I don't get how they still walk free.
It's messed up that there's a law about her, but she doesn't have justice.
Justice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that in mind, with all this stuff that's happening, Netflix has decided to pledge $5 million to black creators and youth organizations to help, raise money and to be aware and give people an outlet for creativity if they don't have one already. So, that's, I'm happy that at least another one of these many companies, one specifically about movies, since this is a movie podcast, it has done to help. Which, this is something I find, since we're talking about sports and other things, NASCAR and I believe the NFL have banned the Confederate flag from their stadiums, which is great.
God damn it! I used to watch a lot of NASCAR when I lived in Arizona.
I did too. I did up until
part of me is like, well, damn NASCAR. I'm that like not necessarily countryside of me, but that like rural like side of me. Mm-hmm. I used to go to Vegas Speedway and stuff like that with my cousin and my dad. I was kind of like, you know what? Nice. Bubba Wallace pushed a lot for it as well, so good on you, Bubba. Mm-hmm. I still have mixed feelings about the NFL, especially with how they blackballed Colin. I would like to see him reinstated as a quarterback, even if it's the second string, because the thing is, he wasn't a bad quarterback. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know a lot of people are like, well, he wasn't that good of a quarterback. He got his team to the fucking Super Bowl. Like, I'm sorry. You don't just do that on dumb luck. Most cases. Eli Manning, I think is dumb luck. But it's like he has to be there to defeat the Patriots occasionally.
Okay.
But with Colin, like, I felt like he was a good quarterback. And, like,
all he did was stand up for his rights. And
yeah. He stood up for Black lives. Like, or kneeled for Black lives. And, like, I don't know, like, the fact that, what's his name? He's a wrestler, Howard, I think. Ron Howard or something like that.
I don't know, sorry.
Hold on, let me look into it.
Ask me one more time.
Ron Howard or something?
Sorry, the question, not the name.
He's a wrestler, and he admitted that, like, hey, back when Colin was doing it, like, I thought it was disgusting and stuff like that. But over the years, I've realized that I was wrong. What he was doing was just, and what he was doing was good. Mm-hmm. Like, people are real, like, the fact that people, I know it should have been seen then, and I know people did see it then, but not to the extent that they do now.
And even now, barely people are seeing it. Some people are.
My problem with the NFL statement was that they don't bring up what they've done to Colin. They blackball him from the league. They just went. I mean, they did do the statement that the players want it, but they should have elaborated and they should have made a statement to be we are going to push. We're going to do better. We are going to be better. Because honestly, because the thing is too, if the people who say that that kind of stuff is disrespecting the flag, dude, holding the flag out across the football field like that disrespects the flag. It's against the flag code.
Legally wearing flag as a piece of clothing is against the flag code.
I got my Captain America with the shield, so technically.
Yeah, you're breaking the law right now, Tep.
I know I am. Oh, man.
That shield behind you is breaking the law right now.
I know, right? Oh, God. Dude, it's just you can't pick and choose when it's disrespecting and when it's not. In my opinion. In the sense of that. I don't know, dude. It's good on NASCAR for stepping up and banning the Confederate flag because that shit is a racist icon at this point. Go ahead.
I saw a tweet that made me laugh that was how long did the Confederacy last? 5 years. You know what lasted longer?
5 years.
My goth emo phase in the early 2000s.
I saw that!
I was like, damn!
Your vampire phase lasted longer! My Twitch career has almost lasted longer. I'm almost on 4 years of doing this.
Aren't you so proud of that heritage that you're creating?
Right?
That ancestry.
The Dork Nation heritage.
Yes, all 4 years, almost 5 years of it.
Jesus Christ. People, you're not going to listen to me. What up, though? You're not going to listen to me about it, but I'm still going to say it. The Confederate flag isn't heritage. It's a losing flag from a war that lost.
I was about to say, what other state allows traitors to the state have monuments all over the country?
Dude, I'm just tear those fuckers down at this point. I don't know, man. I'm cool with those statues being torn down. I know people are oh, maybe they should go to the museum. I'm like, dude, the museum already has enough. You go down to the Phoenix Museum in Arizona. Mm-hmm. They have the little section about the fact that that Phoenix Arizona was part of the Confederacy and then it lost and became part of the Union. There's a section in there that goes over the Civil War. It's already in the museum. That too, Columbus never set foot in the fucking United States. He cut off the hands of indigenous people. He's a racist prick. Why do we still celebrate his holiday? I am 100% for changing it to Indigenous Peoples Day. 100%. Shit, he wasn't even the first one to touch the Americas as a whole. Fucking Vikings were here in northern Canada, dude. Right? Oh God. Yeah, it's just stop being racist, people. I'm just so tired of it. I'm so tired of racist assholes. I'm so tired of celebrities coming out as fucking TERFs, fucking J.K. Rowling, fuck. I'm so tired of goddamn fucking just idiots. I will say, good news from stuff today. The Supreme Court. I know we don't normally talk about this political stuff on here, but we did bring up the flag. It's kind of here. Supreme Court did rule in favor of LGBT today,
which is awesome. It's one of many battles that still needs to be won for them as well.
Yeah. Especially after
Trump being his dumbass,
enacting medical care for LGBT people. I'm just you have any other movie news?
Yes, I do actually.
I want to see King of Staten Island.
King of Staten Island? It probably is going to be a good movie. With, I can't remember his name.
Pete Davidson.
Yes, thank you. I find it kind of interesting, Pete Davidson's situation. So, You find more news to talk about? Oh, Sonic is getting a sequel? Oh boy. I guess that's news to talk about.
Hey, dude, I'm down, dude. That was fun. That was fun. I'm down, dude.
That is good news. Speaking of Sonic, Oscars. The Oscars.
Yes.
So next year's Oscars, they've released the dates for everything. So normally the deadline for an Oscar, for a movie to be made, so it could be qualified for the Oscars, that word, is December 31st, the last day of the year. This year they've changed it because the last 3 months have been, dead space. So the Oscars and the Academy of Motion Pictures of Arts and Science have decided to push back the release deadline to February 28th of 2021, and the actual Oscars themselves will be held on April 25th.
All right.
So, the people get an extra 2 months for the Oscars, so maybe it won't just be the Sonic and the Grudge and all those other not-so-great movies. Yeah.
Hey, Invisible Man was good. That was a good movie this year.
Just because
6.5.
Just because I don't mention the one good movie doesn't mean I'm neglecting the one good movie.
1917 came out this year.
That was technically last year.
Which we gave a 10
that was
overall. And you were a 0.5 away from making it a solid 10. I'm still going to hold a grudge against you on that.
That was still...
Especially because I can look up the record now.
Technically last year.
Oh, that was this year.
It was released in private screenings before December of 2019. So it could count for the Oscars.
You're right, but fuck you.
Other news that I could talk about. Tessa Thompson is learning how to fence for a new movie. I don't know what movie it is, but apparently that's something she's doing. Oscar Isaac is about to star in a Lionsgate thriller called London, directed by Ben Stiller.
That is a weird combo. All right, I'm in.
That one sounds
thriller.
interesting.
Ben Stiller and who?
Oscar Isaac. Poe Dameron.
Oh, that is... Directed by Ben Stiller. A thriller starring Oscar Isaac. I'm in. Let's go.
Additionally, The King of Staten Island is a movie coming out soon.
It came out this Friday, last Friday.
The Five Bloods and Becky are also movies that came out this weekend.
Yep.
So if you're looking for things on Netflix or,
Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
Or Rent.
Or from Quiver Distribution, yeah. So there's that. Let's see. I saw another thing I wanted to talk about on here really fast. The creator of Adventure Time, Pendleton Ward, is in the middle of making a show called The Midnight Gospel for Netflix, which is called it's a animation that pushes the boundaries of animation with trippy and darkly comic journeys through a simulated multiverse undergoing apocalyptic meltdowns. So if you're interested to what might be a very interesting cartoon, well, look out for that coming soon. Where apparently they'll have an official announcement date coming in a 2020 online festival, the Annecy 2020 online festival.
All right.
Words. Daisy Ridley is going to star in a Baba Yaga virtual reality short directed by the creator of Madagascar, Eric Darnell. And here's one. Will Smith plans to star in a runaway slave thriller called Emancipation.
Oh. Really?
Yes. It's going to be Will Smith as a star and director Antoinette Fuqua, who is known for, The Magnificent Seven, Equalizer, The Olympus Has Fallen, things like that. They will be doing a movie about a slave who's running away to become free. There's that. The BAFTA Awards have pushed back their release until April. Apparently there was an Indiana Jones 5 screenplay in the works, but it's been taken out of David Coep's hands, who was the writer originally. But now, is it? I don't know. I think I've run out of news sources here, unless there's anything specific.
That's fair. We always hit that point.
Yeah. So, I'm sure there's probably something else entertaining to talk about, but that happens a lot, where there's always some news, but I just didn't look for it. So, I guess that's it for us here in the news section. Is there anything else? Anything at all you want to talk about before we start wrapping things up?
No, I think that's everything.
All right. In that case, we're done here.
Movies next week. Peanut Butter Falcon, Honey Boy.
Yeah, Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy. You know, movies released in 2019 by Shia Labeouf. So, yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching.
And then we follow it up with the coup de grace.
Your coup de grace. Transformers.
The Transformers Shia trilogy.
Yeah. So, we got those movies. Additionally, like we said at the beginning of the show, we'll say it again at the end, our donation link and donations and stuff. You can donate to CDC Foundation using the links below or using !donation up until the end of the week here, possibly the 20th. So, do that stuff if you can. We very much appreciate it, and I'm sure CDC Foundation would like that money too. So, once again, thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys next week with Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy. But until then, bye.
Bye.